Welcome to the In Bloom podcast. I'm Ella, your host, and we explore what it means to design a life that you can be so fulfilled and proud by. Today, we are sitting down with Vahbiz Cooper. She is a marketing professional at Demandbase, and she beautifully balances traditional values with modern life. From her upbringing between Mumbai and Dubai to her current life in Pune, India, Vahbiz has learned quite a bit. In our conversation, she opens up about redefining success beyond material possessions, learning the crucial skill of saying no in her career, which I definitely need to learn still sometimes, and what it takes to truly build a lasting marriage. She shares that it started with college carpools over a decade ago, and now they're still going strong. Her journey offers a really refreshing perspective on how both your culture and tradition can become a true advantage in helping you create the life that you want. With that, let's get into the episode.
When you are excellent, you become unforgettable.
Welcome to In Bloom. I am your host, Michael Richmond, and this is the Growth Humanity Podcast.
Welcome to the podcast, Vahbiz. I wanted to ask, so very beginning, before we get into your story, where you are now, what you've done with your career, I wanted to understand your upbringing. So you come from an Indian family. How has that shaped who you are today?
So I stay in Pune at the moment. I've been born and raised in Mumbai, so I'm a Mumbai girl at heart. But yeah, I mean, I love Pune. It's home now. And I was actually raised in Mumbai till I was 12. And my mom she used to work at Emirates. So most of our teenage/adult upbringing happened in Dubai, where we were really spoiled for choice. And, we had a blast over there, and then we decided to come back to India and settle over here. In terms of my upbringing, I feel like it was very value based. We were taught discipline and manners, and a lot of like the good stuff that every family teaches right from the start. One thing I think that stands out for our family is that respect goes both ways. Usually in traditionally it's like, oh, they're elders, so by default they get that respect. That is something that stands out to me in my family, that respect goes both ways. Like if you see somebody who is elder to you and they're like being a little disrespectful, you're free to draw boundaries. Like you don't have to go blasting them, but you're free to like draw boundaries. It's not like, oh, you still have to respect them, you still have to invite them to your functions and things like that. So I'm happy that that is something that I can carry on further.
Yeah, and whenever you say that your upbringing was very values based and that was something that was very important to your family and your parents, what
Yeah.
did that look like? Like, did they embody it? Did they talk about it? Like, how did they instill these values in you?
I think they just did it. Like, I don't ever, recall my mom or my dad like pestering, like, oh, this is what it is. I think like I just saw them do it. And I think that's how kids learn. Like, they just see their parents doing it and they pick it up along the way. So I just think that they had like probably pre-decided this is how we're going to raise up our kids. And I just saw them being like kind to each other, and loving each other, and being there for each other. So I think that is something that I just saw luckily growing up, and that is something that I'm going to carry on in my family.
I love that. And I wonder if you could share a little bit about the definition of success that you inherited. And then did that change at any point? So obviously they're instilling values in you, they're instilling all these things in you and showing you their life. And you were talking about Dubai, and Dubai is a crazy world. So what was the image of success that you had? And then did you ever develop it yourself?
Yeah, so initially, like, in the teens, especially, success looked like having everything. Like, you wanted the good car, you wanted the good, jewelry, you wanted all of the luxury items, so to say. So, definitely, that is what success looked like, especially when you're growing up in a place like Dubai. Once we started earning on our own, we realized that, the value of those things is so much less versus the value of, being together, having dinner at the same table, or, like praying together, or just like hanging out together. So as I like grew and matured, definitely success now means like, having a good family, peaceful, quiet, not too much chaos that we see in, certain parts of the world. And yeah, I think it's beautiful now, from where we feel like I would have loved to have that watch or that car, and now sitting here and be like, I'm really satisfied. I think in one sentence, I feel like success is just being satisfied with what you have at the moment. Not that you shouldn't dream about, good things or luxurious things, but you shouldn't, be hurtful to others, or, try to gain those things with unsuccessful methodologies.
Yeah. Yeah. And were you taught from a young age to work really hard?
So actually, both my parents worked really hard over there in Dubai. I've seen, since my dad used to, when we were in school, he used to pick me up and drop me. I've seen him like visually more, not that my mom didn't work hard. So I think that was something that I just picked up along the way. Like we had to like be patient as well. When my dad used to had like other work, he had to like drop certain documents at certain offices before we like go back home. So I've seen him like also like waiting in queues and getting his work done. So along with like hard work, I've also seen him like being really patient. So I think that is
Mm.
just something I saw and picked up along the way, though
And
patience is something I can still work on.
oh, same. No, same. How do you define what satisfies you in the moment? I'm curious if like you've sat with that question and like how are you cultivating a life that is satisfying to you, right? This new definition of success that you have.
Yeah, I think I'm just starting to be like grateful for the things. Like sometimes
Mm.
when we see things on a news, or we hear like certain stories from family, friends, or WhatsApp groups, it's really saddening to see what's going on in certain people's lives in the world, like globally. So I think it's like really important to be grateful. You have like food on your table, you have a roof on your head. There are people out there like dying, and they're not having access to basic resources that are
Mm-hmm.
necessary for human life. So you need to like start being super 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 grateful for all these things that, we usually just take this for granted. So yeah, you should be really grateful that there's everything that you need for like basic survival and more that you have on your plate or in your home. Yeah, I think that's important.
Yeah, no, I would agree with that. That's something that I've been sitting with a lot too is like just being grateful in a moment for the things that you have changes the way that you interact with them, changes the way that just the way that you show your appreciation for them in a moment. And then that impacts the long term. So it's like in my life, at least, like for example, there's a really, really high percentage of people that get divorced in the US. I wonder what number is that in India?
I'm unfortunately not sure, but
It's got to be a lot lower.
yeah, I'm sure it should be a lot lower. But again, like, it's not like how it used to be in the past. Like women are speaking up now, and they are trying to be like independent. And like initially it used to be that there were like pockets of places in the Indian society where we were asked for the woman to be quiet, to, like adjust with the families and all. That's definitely changing drastically. So I'm
Wow.
sure the rates have gone higher than what they used to be, but I don't think we've touched that high yet.
Yeah, it's right now it's a really really high number and I think it's 60 plus maybe more. And so like sitting at the stage of my life that I'm in and like looking forward to marriage and being like okay, like this is a truth, right? The rule or like the reasonable percentage is that like you get divorced and then first you have to very intentionally say okay, that's not going to be me. But honestly, something that's so underrated, and I was just thinking about this with my brother, is just being grateful in a moment, like being grateful for the person that you have with you and being grateful for who they are. Yeah, so that's definitely an underrated trait for sure.
Yeah, yeah, that's true.
One thing that I wanted to kick us off and go back to a little bit was the support system of your family and culture. So what has that looked like? Like obviously the support system inside of American families is a little bit different than the support system inside of Indian families. Can you paint that picture, and like what do you love about the support system inside of your family?
I think that no matter what, no matter how many fights we have, no matter how many arguments we have, at the end of the day, everybody is still there for each other. I don't think personally, unless like something really majorly drastically happens, there's any need for like a family to not be there for each other or support each other. And there's nothing that communication can't solve. Like, I would be lying if I said like, oh, like everything is like, so hunky dory in everybody's family here in India. Definitely people have arguments, and they have arguments with their parents, their siblings, their spouses. But I think, it's so important to communicate. And also, like, one thing I learned like along the way through my marriage is there's a way to communicate things. Like, if you just go blasting to anybody, like not just a spouse, like if you just go blasting and you just throw your emotions on the particular person, they're not gonna like understand it. Or even if they want to like try to understand it, they're just going to start getting super defensive. So of course, like, I have had like situations where I'm really 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 heated and I just want to blast off. But it's always better to take like some time to breathe, take half an hour, 1 hour, whatever you're comfortable with, and try to gather your thoughts. Because when you're really angry or when you're really pissed off, like, there are like a lot of thoughts that come in, and then there are like arguments that shouldn't really be happening, like things that happened in the past. Then you start
Mm-hmm.
digging all of that up. That's not healthy for any form of relationship, be it parents or siblings or like partner, spouse, whatever. So it's always good to like say like things nicely, but still like firmly. Like, you don't want people to walk over you or like disrespect your boundaries, but you
Mm-hmm.
should be clear, like, hey, this is what it is, and this is what I didn't like, versus like, oh, you did this, and how could you do this? And other things that we also realize staying like in the family is sometimes people mean well. Like, it's just that how it
Yep.
came
I love
out.
this. I love
Yeah,
this.
like it's not that because they did something they mean harm to you. Like, they must have come from a different perspective. So it's
Mm.
equally important. As important it is to like say it nicely, it's equally important to give the opposite person a chance to speak as well, and you be the listening party. Because sometimes it's just like a small misunderstanding that blows out of proportion, and that's not really needed. So it's all like, you can keep your point first. I mean, I usually prefer, I want to talk first. But it's also equally important that you listen. Like, once you're done talking, you should be respectful and hear what the person's got to say. That would also help clear up a lot of things.
Yeah, I like the emphasis on believing that people are well intentioned. Like, if
Yeah,
there's a consistent pattern and
yeah,
and obviously something's off, then okay, fine. But believing that most people are well intentioned and that most of the time they're going to try and do what's good, but sometimes they
yeah,
just don't know what's good for you. Like, I think
yeah,
that's a good rule of thumb.
yeah.
I'm curious if, like, whenever you look back, as like think on this year, how many times do you hang out with your family, or like how many times do y'all gather together? Because I think that's something that
Yeah.
that is so incredible inside of certain cultures. Is just it's they are close, but it's not just that they're close; it's that they gather often.
Yeah, we definitely meet up almost once or twice a month, sometimes even once or twice a week when there are like birthdays, people's birthdays are
Mm-hmm.
really close to each other. But otherwise, definitely like once or twice a month. My parents don't stay that far away from where I reside, so I'm a little lucky in that way. So we definitely meet up regularly, and we try to like, whenever we are meeting up, also we try to like take the load off each other. Like, hey, you cook this, you cook that. Usually I just bring the sweets because they're the easiest to okay, I'll get this dessert, I'll get the sweets. But yeah, I love when the moms from both ends cook. They're fantastic cooks. So I love to eat all of that food. And it's like rest day for me. So yeah.
No, I think that's important as well. And something that I noticed, especially, so my culture is Mexican, and whenever I went back to Mexico with one of my good friends, her family meets like you were saying, like once, twice, sometimes three times a month, and sometimes twice in a week because there's two birthdays, right? And it's like as much as they can get together, they do. As much as they can celebrate things, they do. And I think that that's something that is really, really crucial and important. Just like having all of these moments. You're not going to have a strong and very, very put together family if you don't see each other all the time. You can have like a strong family, but I think just the presence is so important. And then especially as you're having kids,
Yeah.
that's also something to consider, is like, how do you want your kids to grow up, right? Like, do you want them to have that extra support as well? I want to go back to something you said earlier, which was your parents' example of love. Can you paint that out? Like, what was your parents' example of love growing up? Because you said it was very strong. They loved each other very well.
As I've always seen them, being there for each other mostly. As we grew up, I've seen them, I've never seen them like arguing a lot with each other. Like they were very respectful with their tone, how they spoke to each other. I think that is something also that I picked up along the way. Every couple like has their own fights, but
Mm-hmm.
we like for me and my sibling, we've never like seen them going like all out on each other, like, hey, you did this, you did that. Whenever like either of my parent is unwell, like the other parent has always like taken care, or been like really 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 supportive. There has been a couple of operations that have also happened with my mom, and my dad was super supportive. Like he did not fall weak for the family at all. Like he was right there, and that is something that actually also helped us as siblings. Like, oh, like that, when we look at him, he was like strong. Also when my dad was going through like a bad phase in his health, my mom was there. She was like, oh, nothing's gonna happen to him. Like she was super 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 positive about the whole thing. And I think her positivity was something that brought my dad out of the whole thing. So yeah, like I've always seen them being there for each other, like no matter what. There has been like times when my dad had to like go abroad for like work and things like that, but he would always come back to like his family. Like he's like, no, I'm not one who can stay out here and like just be there without my wife and my kids. So I'm coming back home. So yeah. And the best part is whenever my dad used to go to work, and my mom never had to like make evening snacks. Like she had to cook dinner and other wifey duties,
Mm-hmm.
but like my dad would always bring snacks. Like so we had like our evening snack time,
How
uh
cute.
all like the junk things that kids could possibly eat. And yeah, that was just like our quiet family time. Like nobody had to talk about work, nobody had to like discuss what happened at school. Like that was just quiet family time. Like all the conversations can happen post dinner. So yeah.
I love that. And I love that there's a space for that of your dad. And he, would go abroad and then he'd be like, what, I'm coming home to my family. Did you see the opposite of that growing up as well, where like there were examples of parents that would either go abroad and then stay there for a long time, or like, did you see the opposite of the example that your parents set?
Not so much in my family, but when we were in Dubai, like when we were in school, I had a couple of friends whose, dad used to like work somewhere in Canada or like at the US, and they were like back home over here. Obviously, I think like they missed their dads. Like I never like got into a deep
Mm-hmm.
conversation with them about it, but I'm sure like whenever my dad wasn't around, like I used to definitely miss him, and I used to blackmail him on the phone calls. So yeah, I'm sure they would have like missed. It's important, I think, for children to have both like the feminine energy in the house as well as like a masculine energy to balance things out. I think that's definitely important.
Can you speak a little bit to that? Like, what does that mean to you? And how did you see that well balanced in your home? And then also, like, what did you learn from that? Like, what did you learn from seeing that?
Yeah, I think the most important thing I learned is that both of them need to be present. Because, if one of the parent is usually absent, there are like certain traits I feel that kind of tend to go missing. Like I would,
Interesting.
yeah, I think like I would learn like the loving and the soft side from my mom. Like if I had to like tell a secret, or if I had to like, if I messed up somewhere, like I would run to her. I was like, hey, listen, this happened. I don't want you to tell dad, but I still want help in this aspect of the problem. So she would be like the more understanding person, like, okay, like I think this is what we need to do, you need to calm down. Like, that softness is something that I
Hmm.
got from her. But if I wanted somebody beaten up, I would go to my dad. Like, hey, listen up. This is what happened. You can tell mom if you wanna, but can we deal with this first and then tell mom like what we did? Or like, so my dad was more of the yes person. I think dads usually are more of the yes person.
Mhm.
So if I wanted something and I knew my mom was gonna say no, I would like go to him. Since I'm like the firstborn in the family, I'm more like the blackmail. I was like, I need this, like do something. So he would like go and try to like convince mom. Eventually my mom figured out what was happening. But yeah, like I feel like and sometimes when I needed like somebody to fall back on no matter what. Like I needed a stronger energy when I felt like, I need dad for this, like no matter what. Like not that my mom wasn't there like 100%, but I needed like, a stronger backbone. Like I needed somebody not to cry at the problem. I needed somebody to just be there, like, and, give like a stare at the problem. Then I would definitely go to my dad for that, like no matter what.
I love that. Do you see this masculine and feminine dynamic also in your relationship? And how would you say like your husband's kind of like the masculine energy brings out more of your feminine?
Yeah, I think one thing that I learned like along the whole 10-ish 11-ish years that we've together is the moment like I am trying to go crazy, or I'm panicking over something, or I'm like overthinking something, I have somebody at the back who's like balancing the whole thing out.
Mhm.
Because and I'm one person who really struggles to say no, or if I have to like stand up for something that I feel like I don't know what to say, like either I just go like all out. I'm like, hey, listen up, this and this and this. And sometimes it can come off as like rude, or maybe that's how they label it. I'm not sure. But then the diplomatic
Mhm.
system of it all is his responsibility now. Like when I want to say something and I need it to be said, like, you know, hey, this is not really gonna work out. I go to him, I ask him, like, hey, can you frame this for me politely, diplomatically?
That is so funny.
Yeah. And sometimes when I feel like I don't have the energy to stand up for this, like I know that I'm going to fall weak here. I'm just going to take him along with me. Like, hey, you need to say no. And you need to say no now to this thing. So I definitely see that balancing aspect over here as well. And I think over the years, we both have like tried to learn that this is where I lack and this is where he lacks, and this is where we both have to like walk together and balance the
Mm.
whole thing out. So yeah.
I want to come back to your relationship here in a second, but I did want to ask you really quickly. Do you have a hard time ever balancing the feminine while you're working so hard? So like, work is naturally just like a very you put in a lot of energy, you're working really hard. It's kind of like more masculine-ish, but do you have trouble balancing that ever?
I used to in one of my previous jobs because I think that was because how the environment was. But in my current role, I think I get so much support from whoever I'm working at, be it a male or a female. And wherever I'm working at the moment, I've never felt that. Like I've never felt like, oh, I have to like, go out there and be like strong and fight. I always had like super supportive managers right from the start. Like I have had three changes of managers in my career, but they were all really supportive. And whenever I used to go to them with a problem, I've always got that support. So I never had to like be like, I want to beat up this guy. But I've definitely faced that in one of my previous roles where I really, really, really had to like, be super strong and, stand up really harshly for myself. So I have faced
Interesting,
that
yeah.
for sure. Yeah.
And like, would you say that you've always had like a good relationship with work? I know that sometimes something that people struggle with is just balancing their relationship with work and life. And it sounds like you've had a pretty good understanding that work is not your life, right? Where do you think that came from, and why do you think that's your outlook?
So I definitely did not have that outlook at the start, and have struggled a lot balancing that. But I think for everyone, I shouldn't say only for women, I think for everyone, regardless of their gender, it's super important to pick the right environment where you're going to work. Talk to people before joining a company, read reviews about it. I picked this thing up from one of my leaders. His name is John Lieberman. He was the one who actually put that into me and saying, hey, listen up. This is just part or a small part of your life. This is not your whole life. And there are a lot of lessons that I learned from him. And there are a lot of new lessons that I'm learning from my current manager, or I have learned from my previous managers at Demandbase. But yeah, there has been like things that I've learned from certain managers where I previously worked as to what not to do as well. So I have definitely struggled earlier in my career to like draw that boundary, draw that line. And I think it was more of a recovery from all of that. Like once I joined this organization, and I felt really supported all throughout over here, like regardless of who my manager was.
So would you say that the thing that helped you most is the change in company culture? What else would you recommend to somebody that's having a hard time with something like this for balancing more of their life or not seeing their work as life? One of the things that Jill Rowley said a while ago was build a life, not just a career. And like that is such a core message that I think I
Yeah.
want to reiterate to myself.
Yeah. I think definitely see the culture before joining any place. And what really helped me was I started talking to people, and I kind of figured out like, okay, this is a good place to work. This is not a good place to work. I checked out reviews, and I was super skeptical initially about joining Demandbase. But once I was in it, I was there. And that was totally a fault of my own, because initially I was in an oil and gas industry, and I wanted to continue in that industry as well. You know, I was the person who became my manager at that point of time, Herschel. He was the one who actually convinced me, and I'm so glad that he did, because my life has actually really changed after that. And I've really learned a lot of things, like as I grew in the career and as I like develop my skills, that it's equally important to develop your hard skills. It's equally important to develop your soft skills as it is to develop your hard skills. So it's not like you should only focus on like the technical aspect of your role, but you should also focus on things like communication, or how you put like a point across to like a coworker, or if you need help, like how to ask it, or if you're not comfortable with something, how to address that. So I think a lot of those things I learned here.
Yeah, I love that so much. And what would you say are some of the things that you wish that you knew earlier getting into your career?
How to say no. I think that is
Oh,
the most important thing. Like, I wish I knew to stand up better for myself, like, you know, a more firmer way. Because I felt like I used to say yes to everything. And then when people were like rude to me, I used to just be like, hey, like, it wasn't very polite when I went back. But that is something that completely changed once I joined Demandbase. Like, so I felt like had I said no in at the start, it would have been like better for me. But again, like there are certain aspects of the role that I feel like you need to start to understand, which is something
mhm.
that I wish I had like when I joined earlier. And also we here like at Demandbase, we have this mentorship thing that goes on, like coaching and mentorship. As long as like, you know, people are enrolling for those kind of things, I think that they will eventually start learning how to deal with like whatever weaknesses that they have.
I love that. And I love your emphasis whenever you said understand the role. That's definitely something that I've experienced as well, where it's like you come into a company or you come into a role and like you understand it, or maybe you understand what you're supposed to be doing, kind of. But like the more that you can get the what I call macro micro, it's like the macro picture, like how does this fit into the business? How does this make complete sense? And then the micro is like, okay, now let me take this down to the day to day. How does this make sense? And the more that you can understand both pictures, the more that you can understand the role in this like whole perspective. And then whenever you go into the nitty gritty, like the fine tuned details, and then the more that you can question between the two. So, like, let's say that something's really popular right now. Let's say, like, there's a strategy that's really popular right now. If you understand the whole, it's a lot easier not to just jump on these trends. So I definitely love that as a core to just succeeding in any career.
Yeah, yeah, that's true.
So I wanted to ask. So Demandbase is a It's a software company, right? What is your pitch? I would love to hear it. How
Oh,
would you explain it?
I would just say that if you're looking for like a unicorn advertising solution or a sales solution, or if you're like just struggling to find leads, the link's in the demo, and I promise you, you won't regret it.
That's funny. I love that.
Yeah.
So how many people are in your team right now?
So we are three. Fingers
So,
crossed on being four, but yeah, three.
wow. 3 in a team means that you are doing a lot.
Yeah, but I think I think it doesn't ever feel like we're doing a lot, because
Okay.
it's like, so whenever I go to my manager and I tell him like, hey, so and so is the thing, I always get asked like really nice questions like, are you comfortable with this? Like, is this a lot for you? And when I communicated like what aspect of the team that I would like to do, like I was actually very happy that, I got what I wanted to do. So it's like the work really doesn't seem like work. Like, of course, I
Mm,
have days where I'm like, oh my God, these, like, my calendar is filled, or I have to like do this. It's not like I would never have like a stressful day at work just because I'm
mhm,
doing what I love, but I have those days less. It's
mm,
like, I know that this is what is there, this is what I have to do. And at the beginning of the year, we've like planned out everything. Okay, this is what we need to do in like the first quarter, this is what we need to do in
nice.
the second. We have these daily and weekly updates that we also give. So it's like really calming. It's like I don't know like what to do next. I'm not clueless on what to do next. And if I need support and I go up to like even the extended team, I'm like, hey, I need help here, and I think you would be the right person to help me, I always get help. Like I don't have to like go struggling to
That's
like
really
find
nice.
help or like guidance. So those days are less. Like I don't feel like, oh my God, what's happening? So
No,
yeah.
that's really nice. Did you think whenever you began that you were going to do this, that this was going to be your career?
No, no. I never wanted to get into this aspect of like the B2B SaaS, but I'm really, really, really glad that I did. Yeah, I just wanted to be like this cool social girl. Like I was really young. But like as I developed and as I learned more skills and I got like freedom to explore,
Mhm,
okay, like you should try this and try this and try this and see what you like.
mhm.
I think that's what's worked the best for me. So initially I had my hands in like everything, and people usually don't like that. They're like, oh my God, like there's so much on my plate. But I think that is something that I also used to enjoy that as well before it all streamlined. But I think that was something that really helped me understand what
Mm.
I like and what I want to do, like as a person in this team.
No, and I think that's a good emphasis as well. So understand the role and then in the beginning have your hands in everything because you don't actually know what you like, what you don't like. You don't know what you're suited for exactly. You know what you learned in school, you know what you thought you were going to like, but like the more that you can expand your perspectives and think, okay, what else could I possibly like in this industry, in this role, in this domain? Because the goal is to like figure out what lights you up because that's obviously what you're going to do the best possible thing at. You're going to spend more time on it. You're going to learn more of it. What would you say right now lights you up in your work and then also outside of your work?
I think the support that I get, like from the team, from the manager, I think that is something that I was not having prior to joining Demandbase.
Mm,
So I think that is something that is always, always, always going to be pleasant. And that is going to something that is definitely going to light me up. The other thing professionally, I would say, is I don't have to, uh, like I'm more, I feel like I'm more confident as a person now. Like I don't
mm,
have to go and ask somebody to like, hey, can you like speak for me? I don't have to do that like anymore. I feel like I can do that for myself. And we get like a lot of opportunities to develop both hard skills and soft skills, and that is something that not every role will give you.
yes.
So I think that is something that's awesome. Personally, what lights me up is if my husband's out of the home, sometimes for his cricket match and something, and I'm bored at home, like what do I do? And I've like already finished watching all my series, and then when he comes, so I know like, oh, this is my plan to annoy him. So That definitely lights me up. The other thing is my sister. She still stays in Dubai. So every time I get to see her or whenever she comes down, and then we can get together and annoy other people, that also definitely lights me up.
That's so funny. One last point on just the work environment, because I think there's one aspect of this that is where you're at right now, and then there's one aspect of this that is where you would like to be. And I think your constant emphasis on support and the culture that Demandbase has created for you, and the way that you get to try out a lot of things and also do soft skills and hard skills and learn in all these different ways. I think that's a really important note just to highlight and remind for myself, for yourself, for anybody listening, just that when and if you ever get into leadership, like the culture that you create is incredibly important. It is the difference between, you know, whether somebody speaks super highly of your company, whether they want to stay, whether they're going to give you a lot and put their effort and energy behind your company or not. And just the fact that you keep on saying that, I think, is really important. And I don't want to just like whiz past it a little bit. Like I don't want to overlook it just because I think it's necessary and critical for people who might be in leadership to recognize that the culture that you create is one of the most important things, because you can't do anything alone. Business is not done alone.
Yeah, yeah. No, I've worked with leaders, and close friends of mine have also worked with leaders who were like had no clue. They wouldn't do like any research before developing a product, and then we were forced to market it. So I think it's very, very important that you do make like a safe space for the people that work for you. And the other thing, I feel like leadership comes from the top. Like if it's messed
100%.
up at the top, it is going to somewhere trickle into the whole organization.
Mm-hmm.
So I think I've been very lucky in that aspect, at least over here at Demandbase. Like I've never felt like I don't trust this leader, or I've never felt like this leader is not going to think good for like me or the organization or like my team. I've never faced that, luckily.
No, that's interesting. And I also think another thing to remember there is what you were talking about, the difference between leadership. Somebody was talking to me a little while ago and they were talking about their job as a manager, right? And I was like, it's interesting because the word manage has an entirely different connotation than the word lead. And whenever you say like I manage versus I lead, like you're divorcing an aspect of the relationship that is by example, right? Like managing is kind of you overseeing, you having your hands in things, you telling people what to do, whereas leadership is you charting the path, you setting the pace, you like showing and leading by example and being the example. And I think that's really important as well. Like whenever it comes to any position where you are in charge of something or you have responsibility, I think seeing yourself as a leader and not a manager is really important, because you need people's buy-in. And the only way that you're going to get people's buy-in is if you earn it.
Yep, that's true. 100%. That's true.
I want to kind of switch gears a little bit and go to your husband and you. Can you tell me y'all's story? How did y'all meet?
So we met back in Dubai when I was studying my bachelor's, and so my university was almost, I think, 30 kilometers far from where I used to reside. And I was just a very lazy kid that time, and I didn't want to wake up early for the bus, although I did for 1 year. Like, I'm gonna give myself credit for that. But yeah, eventually it started to be like like a great struggle, because it was like waking up at 6, like the bus leaves at 6 a.m. So it would be like waking up at 4:30. It was really crazy, and I did not want to do it. And I had a friend who was in his class, and she was like, "Oh, hey, like I reside here. Where do you reside?" And she happened to like reside pretty close by. And I questioned her, like, "Hey, how do you come?" And that's when she said like she comes with this guy Azhar. And I was like, would he mind having another customer? And like that's how we connected. She gave me his
That's
number.
funny.
Yeah, and I used to start waking up a little later. And yeah, and that's how, like, we became friends, and then we became lovers, and now we're husband and wife. So yeah, yeah, that's how I met him.
Oh my goodness, that's crazy.
Yeah.
So, okay, so you became friends first, and then how did you know that you liked him? Like, how did you know that there was something different here? And then you've been together for 10, 11 years ish now. How has that evolved? How has your relationship with him evolved since?
I think first we were just like kids. Like I did not even think it was gonna last this long. Cause like from what I saw from my friends, and it was college, so I don't know if this is gonna really work out. Plus, my parents always had at the back of their mind that they wanna move back to India. So I was like, I'm not up for like a long distance and things like that. And I was like all ready to like call it off. Although, like, since he was my first, I was like super upset about the whole thing. And he just said, like, why don't we give it a try? Like, why don't we see? Like, why are you so closed about it? And I was like, okay. And I was pretty convinced that this is not gonna work out. But 2 years long distance worked out. Like we met in between for sure, of course. But it was like 2 years otherwise. Now that I'm like all married and settled, I don't even know where those 2 years went by. Like it was, of course, like we used to fight more in the long distance because like we never used to meet that often. Like the time zones were like a little bit tricky. There were like parents that we had to like hide the relationship from.
No.
Yeah, and so it was tricky, but I think like eventually we kind of got like the hang of how we wanted to work. And then I never thought of giving up. I was like, nope, this is what I want for the rest of my life. And I still think he feels the same. So yeah, and then we got married.
So that conviction, the yes, I want this for the rest of my life. Like when did that come? How did that come? Is it cuz like y'all just get along so well? Is it just because he is your person and like your life is so much better with him? Like how would you explain that?
I don't think there was like a particular moment where I felt like, oh, he's the one. I think it was just the small things that, I was lacking, and he was like, having those things and the problems that we faced, and he never wanted to give up on them. I felt like in those moments, I started like realizing that he's the one. Like it wasn't just like at some fancy dinner, like, oh, I think he's the one. Like, it wasn't ever like that for me. I think it was all the small things that were happening behind like the chaos and the support that we were giving to each other, or rather that I received when I was at my low. I think it was in those smaller moments that I started realizing that, nope, I don't want to give up on this
Mm.
one, and this is the one I want to spend the rest of my life with.
How do you keep loving him even when it's hard? Like there are moments obviously whenever it's harder to love somebody. So how do you keep on doing that? Cuz I think it's those small things that end up adding up over time and then hurting a relationship.
I think for both parties, whoever they may be, it's important that you forgive for sure and move past it. Like, I've seen a lot of couples that they say they forgive, but then they keep bringing up the same things in like fights or in disagreements. So I think it's important to move like past it. And if you're not past like a mistake that this person did, communicate. And if you feel like this isn't something, like if it's something really drastic that's happened and you feel like you can't forgive, it's always, I wouldn't say easier, but it's always better to end the relationship versus like dragging it and stretching it, because the end is eventually going to come if you're not going to be able to like move on. And I think for whoever it may be, like if we speak to somebody who's married for like 50 years or more, they would have forgiven so many mistakes
Yeah.
that their spouse or their partner or whoever it is that they've done. So I think that's important. And sometimes, and this is also something that I learned after my marriage, sometimes I think it's easier to forget the good things that the person's done, and the times
Yes.
when the person was there for you, and the times when the person supported you and did the things that you were too weak to do. So it's equally important that in those moments and in those days, that you do not forget the good things that the person's done. Like, of course, if the person's made like a really drastic mistake and things like that, and the situation's completely different, then that changes the whole dynamic of the relationship. Then
Mhm.
I can understand that at those times you have to let go of the good stuff as well. But if it's just like small mistakes that happen because we're human, yeah, in those moments, don't forget that there were like good times and good things that were also done. And I think for every like couple partner, have like weekly check-ins or like bi-weekly check-ins with them, because sometimes we get so busy, with work or with, like, maybe like the kids in the future, and a lot of things that accidentally we tend to start taking the other person for granted, and that happens with everyone. So try to have like check-ins, like where the person is at, how they have felt through the week or through the past 2 weeks. And if there, so in case any problem comes up, like it's resolved then, versus like it's being stretched and one fine day in a fight or in the frustration, it all comes out and you're clueless, like, where did that come from?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, have check-ins.
So, one thing that I've found, at least in myself, is like, and I don't know if this is an as a woman thing. I don't know if this is just an as a me thing, but sometimes I have emotions that like my boyfriend will make me feel a certain way. And I'm like, okay, I know that he's incredible and I know that he doesn't make me feel this way a ton, but like right now I just feel a certain way. How do you make sure that the way that you feel doesn't influence the way that you treat them, the way that you love them, the way that you think about them over time and are grateful for them over time?
Yeah, I think I've faced those as well. Like sometimes in a moment, I'm like, what? But I think, so if you're in front of people and that happens, always discuss it in private. Like you don't want to,
Mm-hmm.
make a scene. But if you're already like, if it's just the two of you, then it's always better to take a pause, because like you don't want to go blasting at him, and just like communicate, like, hey, you know what, this sentence or this action of yours isn't something that I appreciated at the moment. Like, could you explain it, or could you like tell me where that came from, because I did not like it at that moment. And you would be surprised to know that he actually is just being a man. Sometimes it's like, I did not even think that it was gonna hurt you, like it was just not at the top of my head, or like, yeah, it's just sometimes how I'm going to blame the gender on this, but it's just sometimes how they are. But always communicate and keep your point across, like in a really nice manner, so you will come to know that he was just like being silly, or hurting you was the last thing on his mind at that point of time. Or sometimes it was maybe something that you did that irritated him and he didn't speak up, so this is how he like showed it. It's probably one of those three.
That makes sense. Yeah. And I love that emphasis as well, cuz something that I've noticed, at least in some of the best couples, is that like they never fail to appreciate the other person, and they never lose that. It's like just a constant understanding that like I'm so grateful for you. And also back to your conversation and our conversation about like family members, they also seem to keep in mind this, just like the heart of the other person. Like you didn't mean to do that. Like you might have done something, you might have like made me upset, but you didn't mean to, and I'm going to believe that. And then I think more than believing it, what you just said, where it's ask them, like just straight up ask, like, what did you mean when you said this? What did you mean when you did this? Because here's what I'm thinking, and I'm pretty sure that's not correct.
Yeah, yeah. Believe me, like 90% of the times that the things that these guys do, we just overthink it.
So how do you make yourself not overthink it, or like do you just communicate better? Or I mean, like, right, whenever you get married, it's the goal and the hope is forever. So that's 50, 60, whatever, hopefully plus
Yeah.
years of just like constant managing your communication, managing your relationship, making sure that you are keeping this person like and their image very high in your mind.
Yeah.
But that's hard. That's very,
Yeah.
very hard. Like something that is also very common is like over time, whenever somebody's in a relationship and also in a marriage, like losing respect for somebody.
Yeah. Yeah. I think before marrying somebody, what every girl or guy for that matter, but I'm just going to speak for us for now, is to have the difficult conversations. What is it going to look like financially? Whose money is whose money? Is it the house's money? Is his money all my money? Is my money as his money? So have those difficult conversations regarding like kids, regarding both the families, or like certain, every family has some difficult people. So, and you can't always avoid them at like functions and things like that. So how are we going to deal with them from both the families, for sure? Or like, I wouldn't say create hypothetical situations, but there are like certain situations where you feel like that there's a high chance of a situation like that happening in the near future or the late future. So discuss those situations as well. And I would say, like, always, always, always see, I wouldn't say like the extended family, but at least like a little bit of close family before getting married into getting married to the person or getting married into that family. Like, have chats with them as well. Like, do talk to your potential future mother-in-law of what like things you might not like. Understand where she's coming from as well, because both of us will have like a different temperament, a different nature, but also know that she also loves her son and you also love her son. Like, that is the common thing. So have those difficult conversations with like people who you know you're gonna interact with on a regular basis, and then get married. Like, don't just be like, oh, I love this person, I've been with this person for x number of years, and then you're married, and then it's like a shock for you. Because I think what for me, like, I dated almost 8 to 9 years before getting married, so everything was clear for me. But for certain people, it's happened that it's all good and lovey-dovey when you're married, but once you're married, it's a different picture. And I wouldn't say that love goes out of the window, but it takes a back seat. And then you have to face life together and face the difficulties together and face like the in-laws and like the hard relatives and everything together.
Yeah.
So please, please, please keep your eyes, your ears, and everything open before you do get married. After marriage, I think the biggest friend of yours is communication. Like, if you're going to be like ignoring things every day, like, oh, I'm not going to discuss this with him, like, it's okay, it was just like a one time thing, you don't know how that one time thing is going to build up in your head.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Yeah. Yeah. So if you feel like this doesn't really need my attention and you're confident that this isn't going to bother you, and you let certain things like just slide, that's fine. But if you know that I'm going to let this slide now, but 2 days from now, I'm potentially going to taunt him about it, then it's better that you discuss it now. You get it addressed now. You understand where he was coming from, or whether he was just, being silly, or he was just trying to like cheer you up in a way that you felt like, what is he doing?
Hmm.
So, yeah, please, please, please do discuss it right there and then, if you know that this isn't something that you're going to let go and you're going to bring it up again. So, yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's also something about like just knowing yourself. Like, okay, what are your patterns? What is something that is true about you? Like, I think it's really really important that by the time that you are, really really frustrated, that's not the first time he's heard about this, right? Because if it is, then that's obviously you're not giving him the space to change. Like, change takes time. And if
Yeah.
you're really frustrated about something, then you need to be able to give him that space to change. But I
Yeah.
definitely think it depends on who you are. Like, I would say for me, and I'd be curious to hear about you, but for me, it's kind of like something happens, I take it in because I'm trying to understand it and I'm trying to be able to tell him like, okay, these are the words that are associated with this feeling that I've felt. I will give it a little bit. If it doesn't go away and if I finally have the words, then I'll just like say it, but in a very, very calm way, because now it's like, okay, now we're past this like moment and I can just explain this to you. And I think that's been helpful for the most part, but that's
Yeah.
usually how I am. How are you? What are you like?
So that is how I try to be most of the times. And that is something that I had to like work on, like especially after getting married. But eventually, like at the start, I would just be like, I don't know what's happening. Like, I would get really overworked or like overthink or make the situation a little bigger than what it really was. And then eventually I was like, okay, you know what? This is all, half of the things are sometimes just in your head. Like, it's not even, that's not
Yeah.
even the reality of what it is. And I know that it's a little easier for like us to get like really panicky and overthink like that. But I think, like as you mentioned, the space, like I've got that space for him to to change that aspect of mine. And I think I am doing a relatively good job. Like, now I wouldn't just go up and be like, I don't know what's happening, I don't know what to feel about this, or like, oh my god. Like, I would just take some time. I would be like, okay, we don't need to talk about this right now. I'm going to take like a
Yep.
15-20 minute. I'm going to just like, sometimes I just play like a quick game on my phone or something, just so that it's not like all in my head. And then I go and communicate. It's like, hey, listen, like this is what something has happened. This is what I'm feeling. I don't know if it's right or wrong, but this is where I'm coming from. What do you think? Like even this question has really helped me like improve, the whole scenario, the relationship and everything. Like, what do you think? So I'm crystal clear as to where he's coming from, or like for whoever. Like, I even ask that to my parents sometimes, like, when I'm like,
Mm,
this is what I felt about this whole thing. What is Where are you coming from? Like, what do you think? So I
yeah.
know that I'm not assuming anything, because
Hmm.
it's like when a situation happens, it's so easy for us to assume, like, oh, I'm sure, like, this is what's going to happen next, or that is what this person meant, like, I'm so sure. But maybe that's not the case. So
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, exactly. No, and I mean, it's really funny. Like, this is something that I would love to hear your take on as well. But what if your spouse isn't like that? Like, there are some guys that like they just don't like hearing it. Like, if you can't explain it, they don't want to meet you in the whole. Here's what I'm feeling, and I don't actually know what this means, but this is what I'm feeling. Like, they don't want to meet their person in that. So, like, how would you recommend somebody deals with that? Because that's really hard.
If your partner is open to like a couples therapy, or like, any other form of communication, I would suggest, please do that.
Yeah.
And help yourselves, help the relationship. But there are certain cases where there's unfortunately nothing that can be done. Like, if they're not afraid to lose you, you're just not the one for them.
That's really tough. Yeah. No, it's interesting. I mean, like, it is such a gift and a blessing, and like you have to remind yourself like all the good things. Like, right, it's very similar. Like, some people I've heard, they write out all the things that they've ever done that's incredible in their work environment, because sometimes it's good to have that reminder. And then on the other side, sometimes it's incredible to do the opposite, where it's like you write what is just incredible about your spouse, your boyfriend, whoever it is, so that you remember, and so that in those moments where like you're questioning it, you're not confident in it, very similar to your work, because that always happens. Like, you can turn back to just be like, okay, like, remind myself, this is who this person is. This is what I love so much about them. This is how they're so good to me. Because I think sometimes there's like the tendency to paint the grass is greener, right? Like, the grass is green on the other side in your work, in a different role, in a different state or wherever, and then with a different guy, whatever it
Yeah,
is. So yeah, I love that.
yeah, yeah, that's true.
Okay, I'm gonna hit you with one final rapid fire question just to end this all out. What
Okay.
is your best advice for a young woman? Like, either something that you would tell a young cousin, a young daughter, something like that. And then secondarily, what is the best advice you've ever been given?
The first thing is, don't be afraid to like experiment whatever you want to do with your life, and don't be afraid to like stand up for yourself, because there was a time when I was afraid to stand up for myself, and I would not want that for like anybody. So go out there and experiment. The other thing I would like to tell them, and this is an advice that I had got as well, is ask questions. Like, ask as many questions as you can and get a clear picture of what the situation is, be it professionally or personally. Like, don't live in assumptions, don't keep things all in your head, because how you see it is not how the world would see it, is not how somebody sitting right next to you would see it. So yeah, don't be afraid to like ask questions. And yeah, just I think be yourself, don't change unless it's for the better. But otherwise, like, if you feel like this isn't an aspect of my personality that I want to change, like, it's personal to me, I like it, and it's not harming you or the world around you, then just be who you are.
I love that. Well, that kicks everything off. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast, everybody. Vahbiz. I hope that you found this episode enriching. I would love to hear your thoughts. If you would like to write a rating or a review, that would be fantastic. You can also follow me at Igloo Podcast. I'm looking forward to our next episode. Cheers.
We all want to help one another. Human beings are like that.